All right, everybody, welcome back. This is The End of the World with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And today we are talking about the Iran War yet again because it was too important not to do back-to-back episodes on it because...
What was that, or the Oscars? It was a close call.
Yeah. Well, things have continued to escalate. We've entered a kind of quagmire, perhaps earlier than even we anticipated, and it's not looking great. The options... You know, it's a sort of
quagmire in no time, flat.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rock and a hard place situation. Trump's not finding a lot of support from the American people or from America's alleged allies. He's throwing out wild accusations and threats in every direction. He's like begging China. He's begging China for help, and then he's like canceling talks with them when they don't immediately help. It's saying NATO.
It's a pretty clear articulation of his sort of mental state on a statement by statement basis. But before we get started on that, did you tune into the Oscars?
I did. I missed the opening, but
did you guys win?
My guys.
Well, did you have any?
All my poly market bets came through. Yes, Michael.
Okay, you're back on. I told you to get off those markets, but I had this very simple moment watching it where I was on Instagram, I think, at the same time, and someone had a whole sheet of picks, in some Oscar pool, and my first thought was just sheer ridicule, what an absolutely ridiculous thing to do. And then I'm realizing that I'm looking at the NCAA tournament bracket at the exact same time.
I was going to say, and then your office pool bracket flipped off a shelf and hit you in the face.
Yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't casting stones in this regard. It was pretty head on a swivel moment of self-awareness. So if anyone won their Oscar pool, congratulations.
As Billy Joel reminds us, glass houses.
The one thing I do enjoy about the Oscars that is this, when they go into the movies have the ability to change the world. You know what I
like a lot is when they say storytelling 600 times in the course of the broadcast. She's a storyteller. This cinematographer is a storyteller. This producer is a storyteller.
It's akin to the singer-songwriter description, sort of, right?
It's even worse, I think. It's even vaguer. Because at least the singer-songwriter writes songs and sings them. The storyteller they're like the lighting expert, outstanding achievement in sound design, the great storytellers. Right.
It's in terms of the current state of the apocalypse, kind of how we have talked on this podcast before about if it continues to get just so much worse and we're still doing this, the End of the World podcast.
Yeah.
I kind of had a flash to that watching the Oscars where it's how bad does it have to get before they stop getting on stage and bragging about how
the impact of cinema?
Exactly. Really? It does it?
Yeah, I had a flash earlier when I was coming back from work, and I was like, a phrase went through my head, and it was "saving the world" with Michael and Stu.
Well, I think we may have. I don't know if we mentioned on this podcast before, but. There is a chance that maybe we can turn around the whole vibe.
Well, that's sort of what we've said, that the idea that
Jaylen Brown, the energy has shifted.
The instant we started the pod was kind of a turning point among many towards. I guess October 7th had happened a few months before we started.
Yeah, sure.
The Ukraine war, there's been a lot of dark moments leading up to the ultimate dark moment of you and I doing a podcast together.
Yes.
I was pretty pleased. I thought, I was happy for the people that won. I usually am. I found that I'd seen very few of the Oscar films this year. I've have them all on a list, and I've lined up ways to see them, shall we say? And yet, this beginning of this year compared to last year, I've watched 8 movies this year, and I think this time. Very low. I've been just recording music at night instead, which I think of as, I think watching movies is great, but when you're inspired to just keep working for 8-hour stretches on just like tweaking mixes and recording different parts. And it's, at this point for new music.
You know what, Stu? When things are going that well, you know what they say?
What's that?
F1 can wait.
Well, I think I've come to a different point in my musical life where, I was younger, I was playing shows, playing in bands, opening for people. Oh my God, we opened for Grant Hart. We opened for the guy from Guided by Voices, this, that, the other thing. Sort of still the dream of like, maybe we will headline the tour someday, right? Never like a delusional dream of like, we will be the Beatles or whatever. But, just like thinking that this could be an earning concern of some sort.
Yeah.
And now that I've spent about 10 years not doing that, and I'm just back to making music for myself, it feels really good. It's kind of nice to unburden yourself of your dreams and yet find the material of the dream still valid. And
there's got to be a Billy Joel quote in there for that too. We'll find it.
She's only a woman to me. I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So One Battle After Another was the big winner to the chagrin of Blue Sky. Blue Sky is furious. They say this is the biggest act of white supremacy since Jim Crow. Blue Sky. Blue Sky is like it's a lunatic.
I've never been on it.
It's filled with lunatics. It's like it's like psychotic white anti-racist people from 2014.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is fine for them. God bless. It's good to be anti-racist, but I don't think that's where I want to be. I lived through the real. I mean, I ran a poetry magazine in the real.
And they're not about to be your tastemakers, right?
What's that?
They're not about to be your tastemakers.
Not at this moment. I'm also just a little too old for the game.
Sure.
I'm just kind of just riding into middle age, loving it.
Just recording music and tuning out.
I'm not tuning out. I'm paying more attention than ever. I'm more on top of contemporary
trends.
I
watched Frontline the other day.
That's pathetic. I'm sorry. No. I mean, I was quoting Clavicular in class today, so and the students were loving it. I was making a case that Clavicular is our modern poet. I mean, and what I was like, no, Clavicular's value is not in his empty, utterly empty philosophy of misogyny. Like that is not what is interesting about Clavicular is that he is a forger of language. That we're now all talking about, bone smashing and
mogging,
keto maxing and mogging. Right. This is all like, this is where poetry, this is what poetry does. Creates new words.
Cicero than anything else.
Not right? Cicero. Cicero is not a real poet. Cicero is a rhetorician.
Who makes words?
The poets.
Yeah. Like what's an example?
Shakespeare.
Billy Joel?
Shakespeare. Yeah. Well, Joel, not only do the poets make Joel,
Shakespeare, Joel. That's pretty good.
Top 3 poets: Shakespeare, Joel, Mike Tyson, Clavicular. No, but like the Romantic poets argued, Coleridge and Wordsworth argued that like not only the poets don't just make new words, but they like rearrange the relationships between words. They give words new senses.
Right.
And I think that's
like cowboy became cowboy.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm kidding because I'm.
Shelley tells us that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And
it's funny, Shelley told me that too.
Oh, really? You and Percy have been hanging out. You and Bish been having tea behind my back, Michael. I never thought you would hang out with Shelley without me. Shelley is my friend.
Yeah. I know. We'll talk about it after. Let's get to the.
All right. Well, it was nice to have. I feel like we've been it's been a sort of a lugubrious mood, a little bit doomer around the pod lately. So it's nice to have a little banter, a little poetry talk, a little Clavicular.
Crack, as a great poet once said, not sure who, but anonymous.
Crack, you said?
Yeah, crack, like banter.
Ah, yes. Not the scourge.
Braic.
I see.
Yeah, I see.
All right. So anyway, the Iran war has continued. We're into week 3 now. It's driven oil, as we predicted, or as I think may have even begun to happen last week, over $100 a barrel. apparently the soonest they can bring it back to pre-Iran war levels is the end of 2027. I heard someone say that.
Good.
Sounds good, right?
But we have so much oil.
Well,
So
Trump's tapped the strategic petroleum reserve, and that is,
really?
yeah, he's tapped 40% of it, which is like literally nothing. I mean, it made absolutely zero dent in the global oil supply. So,
Wait, so there's only 60% of it left?
yeah, it's nothing. I mean, it's a lot of oil, but in terms of the scale of global, it's nothing.
Sure.
It's not like
I'll get some more in that reserve, huh?
maybe to make the reserve a little bigger,
40, it's frightening to me.
expand our reserve horizons. Well, I don't know. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but like the helium reserve stuff is really grim. We'll get into that.
We don't have enough helium?
We used to have a helium reserve starting in the 20s.
And all those kids at parties just wanted to...
That's nitrous. That's not even helium. Right?
No, the helium thing, isn't helium what makes your voice go funny?
Nitrous oxide does that too, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think those helium tanks are nitrous. I don't think they're... Okay. I don't know. We'll do an in-depth invest. I'll send some people from our staff.
Just get a various group of people hooked up to a variety of tanks, and we'll come.
They're going to go to carnivals. They're going to go to circuses. They're going to get to the bottom of all this. Rest assured.
They're going to pan out. They're going to fan out. Is it fan out or pan out? I don't know.
I think fan out means spread out. Pan out means workout, right?
Okay.
But not workout like clavicular doing curls. Okay. The gas, the oil that Trump's released is not enough to drive gas prices down at the pump or heating oil. It's nothing. Now, I think it's really fun, quote unquote, to remember that this like driving up of oil prices is paired with Trump's utter hatred of green energy and just like attempts to slash and burn any grants that were issued under Biden. Much as he slashed all the grants for healthcare and now is slashing environmental regulations that will drive up cancer rates. It's like there's all these combined, effects we're seeing like multipliers that I think really don't testify. I mean, Biden, neither of us love Biden, obviously. The whole situation was kind of a nightmare. But and Gaza, of course, but there was a little bit more intelligence at play in some parts of that.
I mean, the through lines here, right? The impacts of all of these different elements of whatever it is, the decline or destruction of the government, regulations, a total disregard for climate concerns, environmental concerns. When pressed up against a crisis, right, particularly an energy crisis, what is really frustrating is you hear a lot of people talking, and not always in sympathy, but like, well, once you start a war, there's unintended consequences, right? And it's like these are not necessarily intended consequences, I guess.
Sure,
but they're so obvious to everyone. That all of these things were going to happen if these actions took place, right?
Yeah.
If the reason that this war game, which no doubt has been played out thousands of times by various American administrations looking to quote unquote deal with Iran, that they held back, were then all of these concerns that are now playing out on top of the fact that, I think what you're getting at is like, even if you were doing this in some sort of politically effective or efficient way, forget about the morality, anything to do with that, then why is America not like leading on like clean energy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to understand. I mean, and also just like, if we're going to catastrophically drive oil prices through the roof, why also slash all the non-oil related like power source? Like, it's just like what are we doing here, people?
Maybe it's easier to understand than we think. Maybe it's precisely that by creating the crisis, the necessity to acquire the resources by any means somehow becomes more and more justified, and on we go and escalate. Take more territory.
Feedback loop again, right?
Right. Dial back onto Greenland while we're at it. Like, who knows?
And as you say in the notes, perhaps it also just boils down to Trump's knowledge of the whole situation. The extent of it appears to be, we have a lot of oil. Right?
Yes. I mean, that's the thing that I think we're all trying to figure out. We talked a bit about it on the podcast last time, but like, if what Trump is saying is what he seems to know about the world, then the catastrophe is inevitable. I'm sorry.
And like, it's really a miracle that we dodged it.
We don't need anything, Stu. We don't need anything from the strait.
We're
so much. And actually, when oil prices go up, we make so much money. It's like the same thing with the tariffs, right?
Yeah.
That me and you, Stu, we're just taking in so much money from these tariffs.
Yeah. And I love that he keeps floating like, well, there'll be a tariff dividend. We'll all get a little payout from the tariffs. Yeah. I'm sure that tariff dividend will offset the rise in inflation and cost.
Talking to my people about maybe a dividend, a tariff dividend. Like if this is the level, right? Like if there's nothing beyond this,
which there isn't,
just totally possible, despite, the fact that seemingly half of his country has convinced themselves that there's some sort of, chess game being played by Donald Trump still, right? That rather this is, he has become the sort of perfect emblem for the spiraling out of any number of interdependent crises that are now collapsing on humanity at once.
Right. What Adam Tooze is dubbed polycrisis, right? Just like the intersection of all of these crises. I found a good article in the American Prospect about the fact that Trump has inadvertently made a really strong case for renewables as a national security concern. Given that the oil market is subject to the shocks of capricious wars waged by the American president. Now we talked a little bit.
Wouldn't that just be the most American way?
Is like the only way we learn is that our own stupidity.
The only way we can retain hegemony and control over other people is if we get off this oil. Like, it's so sad, so bleak.
Yep. Oh, well, right. I mean, yeah. Well, the other thing we talked about last week a little bit is fertilizer prices, as fertilizer is a byproduct of petroleum refinement, a lot of which comes from the Gulf.
Shit don't come cheap no more, Stu.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad. Tooze in his newsletter passed along a little. He has a chart book which publishes seemingly almost every day. The guy can't understand the rate at which the guy turns out material. He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. No, I'm just kidding. That's Darth Vader. Is more machine now than man. Anyway, but Tooze said that the chart he put up said, fertilizer prices are much higher. They're not at catastrophe zone yet. Longer this war drags on. And then we touched on it earlier with our nitrous versus helium convo, deep dive investigation to come. But helium is also a major export of the Gulf region. Who knew, right? I certainly did not know before this crisis. And helium is also really important for the manufacture of semiconductors because it's an inert, non-reactive gas that's in relative abundance and isn't difficult to acquire. It exists in the Earth's shell. You can tap it. It comes out. There are other ways of getting it, but it's quite complex. I don't fully understand it, not being a chemist. But that's great because it's not like we've centered 90% of our economic growth around AI that is 100% dependent upon the production of semiconductors using helium, right? It's like
when they write the history, if it ends up just being we ran out of helium, it's kind of
speaking of historical disasters, one of the reasons that the Hindenburg disaster, famous cover art of Led Zeppelin 1, mainly what it's known for these days, but what it's known for in my household, at least. The reason that happened is because the Americans refused to sell helium to the Germans in the aftermath of the First World War. And so they used hydrogen, which they had in abundance. Problem with hydrogen, of course, as we all know
as
now
we found out.
is extremely flammable, right? It's a little spark on a tower and the humanity, right? So that's an interesting historical precedent to think of. Another thing to think of is part of the thinking in the lead up to the Hindenburg disaster was like America recognized helium was this like limited resource that we should hoard. So that or maybe it was even before this, like Teddy Roosevelt or FDR, I forget which one of the Roosevelts like built a strategic helium reserve so that we'd have like a massive underground tank full of helium for when we most needed it. And that existed for 70 or 80 years until, guess what happened to it, Michael? You're not going to believe this.
We had to use it, so we emptied it out.
No, we didn't have to use it. Neoliberalism, baby. We privatized the helium reserve. And it was sold off gradually from the 90s. It was mandated to be sold off entirely by when? That's right, 2024, which has allowed Trump to be like, Biden sold off the last of our helium reserve. It's like that was mandated like 30 years before Biden was, I guess Biden was in Congress, but you can't really pin that on Biden as much as, I might like to. So neoliberalism, we win, another triumph. So, gee, we
should briefly mention the recent request by Trump for his allies, who he has been lambasted, to bring a few ships and help out.
Help with the escorting of oil tankers through the straits.
Right, like
as if a warship is any less of a sitting duck than an oil tanker.
Absolutely, and I believe they've all said no. Right?
They've said, "Don't call us; we'll call you." I believe Australia, Germany has said, "This isn't our war. What are you talking about?" Like, I think France has left us on maybe. Even Starmer, our bravest and most courageous ally in world history,
most special of relationships,
has left us on red. He said, I'm not sure we want to get any further into this quagmire.
Just looking out, it seems like you guys have it under control. And it is amazing to create the problem while ridiculing these exact people.
And then
days later, hours.
Not even asking for the help beforehand, mind you, just doing it without any regard for them.
And like, you know what, look, we probably don't need their help. I mean, it would be easy enough to go through the strait if we wanted to. Like, it's this type of thing. It's like, I don't know how you can possibly enter into anything that even approximates diplomacy at this point.
No.
He's not, like, even for his standard level of incoherence, we are through the looking glass here.
Up is down, people. I've had friends who were undergoing acute mania who were far more reasonable and easier to deal with or more consistent than Donald Trump, right? Like,
it is so incredibly bizarre. Like, we won. He says we won every couple of days.
He says we won. It's over, but there's more work to do. We've destroyed their military, but they can still bomb us. They can still blow up It's like, well, which is it? We're living in the Schrodinger, quantum undeterminism, where it's like it's both over and not over at all times. As I said last week,
I think that what you see here is that he's learning. Well, maybe he's not learning. We are learning that juvenile tactics of Trump that he has conned himself and much of the world
the bait and switch stuff, the say one thing, do the other
strategy, is that it's just this one trick garbage that may work when you like bring, who was the guy who came in to sit with him at the US Open, the Swiss leader, right?
Sure.
Over because there's some tariffs, like these little victories, like that he can claim, like, oh, I'll take the tariffs off now. The tariffs were going to be 241%, but now they're not. And it's like, okay, well, that it didn't happen. Those never existed. But it's like he came to believe he could just speak, like, actually sort of in this completely, like, plainly hypocritical and loose fashion with no consequence.
That's right.
And just like we talked about a bit last week, it's like, at the very least, he has drastically underestimated his enemy. I mean, you saw it. There was a press conference today where he's like, well, nobody saw that coming. They bombed, Kuwait and the UAE and Bahrain, and nobody saw that coming. And it's like, everybody forever has seen that coming.
Right. And then
he gets asked by one of his guys. What's the guy's name? Pete Ducey or whatever.
Steve Ducey, I think is his name. Yeah.
And he said, he's like, you just said these places were bombed and we were shocked. We didn't expect it. Are you upset that you weren't briefed on this possibility? And his claim was something like, yeah, none of the experts knew this either. It was just so shocking.
Well, but then on the other hand, he's like also claiming, I predicted they would close the strait. I've known long before anyone else. Sure. And I also predicted that 9/11 would happen and that bin Laden would do it. He claimed that after saying he claimed, and it's like, okay, famous clairvoyant, like what use is your Tiresian foresight if you're not going to apply it? Are you just a Cassandra? You just know the truth. You don't tell you tell everyone and no one believes you, but you're the president. You're not like a lone voice in the wilderness. You're not Saint Jerome.
Oh, I mean, this is sort of what I mean about going all the way back to, again, like if we think about at the least, like from October 7th on is kind of a through line of escalation here.
Yes.
Again, obviously not to say that what's happening now is worse. It's just a different form of political considerations in a war that's going on. Is it all of it from Doge all the way through all of this? It's like, these are not unintended consequences. These are like clearly visible consequences that everybody who has cared about this stuff has been articulating in a very plain way. And so, a very simple.
The Iranians themselves have been saying, if you do this, we will do that.
Even the most like fucking milquetoast guy at The Economist is like, if you keep pressing the buttons of these NATO leaders, when you need them for something, they might not want to help you. Like one of the most basic premises of human existence forever.
Yeah.
And he's acting like, wow, we've always done right by them. Maybe we won't even help them out in Ukraine if they're not going to help us out of this little pickle. And it's like,
don't you remember you were just demanding that Denmark give you Greenland? Like you were saying you were going to conquer Canada? Like
we've seen so many times that obviously the con nature of this has been laid bare, but it is, and you are seeing, I think, fractures finally in some of his support, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but not as much as you would hope.
Never quite as much as you would think, but it is just amazing to watch him perform in this way, where he is so clearly and completely out of his depth. Never mind what happens. Never mind if somehow this ends well for the American foreign policy.
Sure.
Forget about that.
For the blob.
Just him speaking to these other people, whether it's Iranian leadership or NATO, it is unbelievable that a single person in this country is able to look and go like, yep, all part of the master plan. Like mind-boggling. And like I think that's the whole point. The last thing that we're gonna get to a bit, I think, is that that makes sense in a land of increasing unreality, or reality is fully contested, right?
Right.
Whether it's AI is this footage or this footage, that's not real, that's AI, or that is real, it's not AI. Like it's an absolute mess. Like we're talking about Netanyahu, right? There's been rumors.
Well, this has been really interesting. I don't know what to believe personally, but there have been rumors all weekend that Netanyahu is dead, or at least has not been seen in public for a week. That his son, who I think lives in Miami, maybe he's gone back to Israel for the war. I don't know.
I'm sure. First plane he get back.
But he hasn't tweeted, which is very unusual for him. And so there's this, some of it seems to be wish casting, people who want to believe that Netanyahu has been killed in an airstrike or something. I think maybe more
want to believe that Iran's capabilities are at a certain level.
That's right. And maybe he has been, but I think it's probably more likely that he's just underground. Like, because the Iron Dome has been compromised.
Am I wrong? Like, is it possible that we would be getting, if he was appearing in public or at least in some verifiable forum, we would be having that shoved down our throats every second, right? Like,
Right.
there'd be no reason to hide that, right? So, yeah, I think either.
Did you see the video of him getting coffee?
No.
There's a video that dropped today or yesterday of him at a coffee shop that seems, I mean, I'm not a, it seems to be AI. Like the coffee in his cup doesn't move right. You know, like a lot of telltale signs
there was like a speech he was giving, and
no, it wasn't a speech. It was like him showing up to like raise the morale.
No, but one of the supposed AI videos. Look, he has 6 fingers, you know,
or his ring disappears. Or I've seen a bunch of different, and I don't know what to make of any of this. Like, but the one of him with the
I'll tell you what to make of it. Regardless of whether he's dead or what any of these particular images, like, if he's not around, things aren't going that well.
Oh, no. I mean, I think there's no doubt things are going poorly. I mean, the Gulf states and Israel and America are almost out of interceptors. Yeah. And Iran has slowed the pace. And we talked about this last week, but they've slowed the pace of their attacks because they don't need, they can pick and choose. They know that America can't, or Israel can't defend against every assault. So they don't have to like overwhelm.
And they know that they have like this singular advantage right now about controlling the trade of oil around the world.
Yeah.
And so there is like, this is the thing that, you know, and again, you hear both things. I have no reason to negotiate. Actually, we're trying to negotiate. Actually, I negotiated with them recently. Actually, we don't even know who their leaders are.
Actually, their military is all dead. Oh, but actually they're still bombing us. Just
right. But all of it's the desperation of the messaging makes it very clear that someone at some level realizes that for now might not last long term, but there is this middle ground between a conflict that would last days and maybe years, where Iran clearly has some short-term advantages, just even with the Strait alone, right? In terms of dictating the relationships between these allies, relationships with other adversaries, like all of that stuff, right? Yeah. And so I don't, you know, I'm sure that at some level there are people in the American government somewhere who get very frustrated when they also learn that Israel's taken the opportunity to start an invasion of Lebanon.
Right. Like, why not? Let's go further. Why not? Let's attack Egypt. Well, right. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? There's a really kind of crazed statement by the defense minister, Israel Katz, who's threatened basically, we're going to seize all of southern Lebanon if you, the Lebanese government, don't get your act together and whip Hezbollah into shape, or like, you know, rein them in, or what have you, take them out. Which is very, and he's also like, our relentless strikes on your infrastructure in Beirut, in the areas that aren't even specifically Hezbollah strongholds. I mean, we probably some Hezbollah in Beirut, but I mean, you know, it's the capital city. It's a big city, right? I have friends that live there. It's a beautiful ancient place, and they're just like blowing up bridges, blowing up electric plants. You know, it's just like that will continue until you. It's like this weird form of coercion where it's like.
Well, it's the part that I think is the most frightening to play out, is that when you start thinking like, well, why? Why do you speak like this? Why do you set these aims and goals and also do the things that bring about so many of these issues? And that's when it starts to feel like the use of tactical nukes
and other things like that seem to come more into the frame. I agree.
And even if not that, like just far greater damage over the next year, where like the type of behavior that was exhibited in Gaza, that just the complete raising
becomes the norm.
We
just turn everywhere into Gaza.
Because, you know, if you set these things that are totally unreasonable to expect of people who are not your friends, right?
Yeah.
And then go, well, look, we have
and
no
people
choice.
who you've systematically attacked and whose infrastructure you've been dismantling for decades, right?
And the only real advantage that America and Israel seem to have is the bigger picture of mass destruction.
That's right.
It's the only, right? Like on the ground right now, in the way that it's being waged, it doesn't, I mean, there is an advantage of force, but every advantage these places seem to have are primarily force based. And as it escalates, like, well, then how much did they have to escalate that use of force? But,
Yeah.
to that end, it also, like, the thing that I track along with that is, and, I'm obviously talked about this a lot on the podcast, just in general, whether it's about democracy or legislation or corporate corruption, is there this concerted effort to mention media manipulation and AI while sort of doing that thing, right? But just kind of throwing this idea out to people over and over again that you cannot trust what it is that you see.
Right.
And that
I
is
mean,
a very frightening thing when you consider what might be coming down the chute.
but also, before we get into this incredible Truth Social post by Trump from last night, I just want to point out that, like, what Iran has is a population of 90 million people who, obviously, there are dissenters within that. Not everyone is a regime hardliner. But when you're bombing those people, who are they going to turn to? Like, they're going to be much more supportive of the regime than they were before. And they have a unified ideological purpose, which is self-preservation, preservation of a culture that is 3,000 years old, right? I mean,
but this also goes to, like, your overall view of history, that most of the time when these catastrophic mistakes are made, it's not some sort of grand conspiracy. It's that people are very, very stupid.
Yeah.
And,
yes,
we do have a group of people that it is pretty easy to argue are just stupid enough to believe that they could say, hey guys, so we're going to bomb you for a few days. Now you do an uprising. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that we know doesn't happen as a result of external.
Well, remember how America almost had a revolution after 9/11?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, wait. Bush had 80% approval rating for years, right?
And again, it's not like, however the numbers break down, if it's 50 or 80 or what, it doesn't even really matter.
The two things do not go together.
There could be more dissenters. It doesn't mean they're more likely to be like, you know what I'm in the mood for today? An uprising against an armed regime.
Right. And when the CIA did successfully do the revolution in Iran in the 50s, or the Arbenz thing in Guatemala or whatever, it was very subtle by comparison to what's happening now. It was like planting stories in the press and, like, aligning with rebel factions that already existed.
And just the capabilities of Iran's military and Revolutionary Guard were not nearly the same.
Well, they didn't even exist then. This is 70 years ago, right?
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the overall ability of the state to react to whatever CIA.
I mean, everything's so much more sophisticated now, right?
Exactly. It doesn't seem like again, we talked about this last week, but, like, more and more, it just seems that basically they kind of did, like, this old school, CIA, or more like covert op type thing in Venezuela. Look at us. We've still got it. But the ground is shifted in these other places. You don't just do that. It doesn't work like that.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's
and also they mostly left the regime in place in Venezuela, right? I mean, they took out one guy.
Exactly. But that's, like, again, it's like the sense, I think, more to say is that in Trump's mind, the theater of it all had worked.
That's right.
And I think that basically he thought that was going to be the case. I'm like, if I had to bet money, I mean, this is not to absolve the man. If I had to bet money, he's like, what the hell? Why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have an attention span.
No.
You know what I mean?
But let's get to this. I mean, he went on a rampage on Truth Social last night and posted some of the most.
Need to read the whole thing.
We're not going to read the whole thing, but do you want to read it, or should I?
Yeah, I'll just read the beginning. So, which is, it's just like a real masterclass in projection in many cases.
That's right.
Iran has long been known as a master of media manipulation and public relations. What? They are militarily ineffective and weak, but are really good at, quote unquote, feeding the very appreciative fake news media false information. Now, AI has become another disinformation weapon that Iran uses quite well, considering they are being annihilated by the day. Classic, the like multi-day annihilation. Um, they showed
Jesus
phony
Christ.
kamikaze boats shooting at various ships at sea, in caps, the first letters, which looks wonderful, what? Powerful and vicious. But these boats don't exist. It's all false information to show how quote unquote tough their already defeated military is. And it goes on to cite various examples like the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier.
It's such a mess, the things he cite. It's hard to know what he's even responding to or what he's even talking
Yes,
about.
I
Right?
think that's right. And it's like, I think it's getting to the point where he has no idea what he's
Well, I
responding
think
to.
he's just looking at something on the scroll and seeing stuff.
Right. And so the irony here is that by mistake, he could just as easily be looking at something that is AI that is not, right?
Right.
This is not a serious president. He's online being like, there's a picture of the USS Abraham Lincoln burning. Is that real? Like, that's how it feels like
Yeah.
he's navigating.
Now he goes on to blame the corrupt media for disseminating these images.
Yeah. He's talking about getting rid of their licenses.
He says that's why their approval rating is so low, and I can win a presidential election in a landslide, getting only 5% positive press. They have no credibility. I'm so thrilled to see Brendan Carr, the guy who had such great successes as getting Jimmy Fallon fired. Oh wait, that didn't work. He's looking at the licenses at some of these highly unpatriotic news organizations. They get billions of dollars of free American airwaves and use it to perpetuate lies, yada, yada, yada. They get much worse ratings than I got on The Apprentice, and they should be fired, like I used to say.
It's like, again, like it would take too long to go through all of this and it's just like what it makes you feel like, right? But there's just something like really sick and frightening about somebody waging a war that seems to be, certainly has left his grasp for now, and is like talking about the ratings of ABC and stuff. It's like
vis-a-vis his war with Iran. Like,
right, exactly. And like
what?
like he actually is talking about, like, he's quoting himself from his time in The Apprentice, the show.
Yeah.
Like it's an incredible thing to have seen the support to remove Biden, right?
Yeah.
For his decline. And then see this, right? Like, I'm just like, forget about wherever you stand. It's like he is talking about bragging about television ratings and throwing out his reality TV show
as he talks about banning the press for doing a crime that we can't even really understand, like what he is even talking about.
While the people he has sent to serve are burning on a ship.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Like at the least with like some other presidents, when it came to putting people in
harm's way,
they would bend over backwards to be like, to show they were giving the lip service.
Right.
Now, of course,
to feign gravitas, even if it wasn't.
Yes, exactly. Disgusting in its own way.
Sure.
But like, this is just completely, he basically is like, if you see an American plane hit, that is not real.
Yeah.
And, we have heard some reports, which we will, if it,
I think the death toll is up to 13 officially.
But we've heard reports, we have heard rumors of some problems with the rank and file that are like, what exactly is it that we are doing here and why, and like, again, this idea that he is some sort of master at any of this cannot help with his own military. I don't see how it could.
Right. I mean, you spoke of Cicero earlier, and, a real statesman, a master of statecraft. Were Cicero to see this, I think he would willingly go to be murdered by Mark Antony all over again, because this is just like
exactly.
He's like, it's game over for us, folks. This is not it. Now we learn he's talking about seizing Karg Island, which is the island where a lot of oil is Iranian oil is pumped into ships for export, right? It was bombed heavily over the weekend. He claimed we only bombed the military targets on the island. Left. What did he say?
He said, I left the pipes.
Yeah. So, good news. And now he's saying we're going
to. But we will destroy the pipes unless they negotiate and lay down, although they are already defeated.
That's right. That's brilliant. And surely troops that would occupy that island would not be at all open to drone or missile attacks from Iran.
No.
Because, of course, we know Iran is...
They can't because they have no missiles.
Right, they've been defeated.
Yeah. I mean, sure, they have a few missiles.
I mean, there could be some AI videos of them getting blown up, but that would be what it is. It's very, very heartening material.
Yeah, I mean, I can't just as much as you sit there being like, I can't like imagine how the calculus can still be to continue this.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about Trump, it's like an off-ramp seems inconceivable in the short term. I just don't understand. Like, maybe he can spin it just by like doing the Trump thing of being like, no, we won. But like, I don't think Iran has any plan
of stopping.
To stop.
Yeah.
What's
the incentive for them to stop? There's nothing. Now, what we hear, just before we get to a final, slightly lighter and also ridiculous note about Sam Altman, we should talk about Cuba. Apparently, as of today, we're recording this on Monday, the 16th. All the power is out in Cuba, and there's been a low grade, not quite missile crisis level embargo, but all oil. The island has been starved for oil. And now, just before we start recording, word came out in the New York Times that the Trump administration is basically like the Cuban president has to go. Earlier today, the Cuban government announced that they're going to allow citizens of Cuba to send money back, like to live abroad and own businesses in Cuba. Loosening of restrictions on the flow of commerce and of industry from the island, sort of a sop to the exile community, right? But basically, it's pretty grim that the United States has basically been slowly starving Cuba to death over the last since the Venezuela incident, right? It was kind of their last lifeline, and we talked about how Venezuela was compared to what's happening in Iran. Quite easy, right? Trump was able to get what he wanted with minimal loss of life, minimal economic blowback. Cuba's right there, If he has to pull the plug on this Iran thing, chances are he immediately goes into Cuba in an attempt to kind of...
You would think so. And like, again, you can only take in so much. And I think that's one of the advantages of this scattershot approach.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of any sort of, he knows he's dealing with a feckless opposition. And even if he wasn't like this, there's so much going on that, like, the idea of like, oh, he's going to war in Iran to distract from the Epstein files. But you realize it's probably more accurate to just say that, like, at a certain point, when you start reading about Cuba and you're like, wait a minute, it's insane that this has been going on. And then you're like, oh yeah, I think I kind of remember hearing something. And then the way I would put it more is like, it's more accurate to just be like, everything is a distraction from everything.
Flooding basically. The zone.
That's right. I mean, just like, yes, he could, in a show of force, go to Cuba to save face after Iran, and then the Epstein file situation would come up again, and he would go into Greenland or whatever, or talk about, or send troops to the border of Canada. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
or do another series of raids in American City or what have you.
That's right. And around we go, because it doesn't appear as though he, frankly, it just has any idea what he's doing.
Either that, or maybe Trump understands the greatest wisdom of all, which is that chaos is a ladder, right?
Yeah, but I think that's like what you definitely see in the second term, right? Which I just don't know if when he started his second term, he intended to become such a sort of foreign policy president. I don't see anything to indicate, but somehow,
certainly not what he ran on.
No, and like even the horrible things that he's been doing domestically, they they seemed, as bad as they seemed to be more a sign of having control, right?
Mm,
Like in terms of massive hiring of ICE agents
right.
and huge numbers of deportations and detention and all that stuff. It was a very frightening and remains so and heinous use of power, but it was a clear use of power.
That was in
This
line
seemed
with his stated agenda on some level.
Yes, whereas this thing seems like almost, in a way, like an abdication of
It
power to
seems,
me.
quite frankly, Bailishian, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
chaos,
and like
chaos
yeah,
for
like it's
chaos'
chaos,
sake.
but it's also like
It's anarchic.
is it a petulant reaction to the fact that none of your bigger ideas have actually led to you having an iron grip over NATO or
Yeah.
whatever your fanciful idea was? That now that hasn't happened, you're just kind of stomping
Or
around
that
the
people
world.
don't like that he's like sending masked guys to kill American citizens in the name of deporting,
Yes,
cleaning ladies and
that's right.
gardeners, right? I mean, it's
That's right.
ridiculous.
Right.
It's
And even
fucking
he,
ridiculous.
in the aftermath to those things, even is saying like, he for the first time I've heard him in a long time reiterate, like say, like, actually, we're going for just the criminals. There's a bunch of people who are just working hard. We're not going for them right now.
It's like,
Like
well,
he
then what
said
the
that.
hell have we been doing for the last year and a
Have
half?
we been doing? Yes. I mean, it's just, but again, like I think that all of this at some level.
Well, the problem is there's a fiction undergirding this all, which is that millions of illegals are voting. They're all criminals.
Absolutely.
All
Sure.
this, there
Right.
are all these millions of illegal criminals are why crime happens.
And
None of it's
again,
true. There's no empirical
right.
reality to it.
He explains that he won in a landslide. He explains that there's all this fraud is the only reason that any election was close. It's all designed to build up the sense that he is beloved. And as time marches on, it is more and more put in his face that that is just not the case.
That's right.
And I think you are seeing this huge acting out because the validation that he had managed to put himself into the right echo chamber for a while, but it feels like things have escaped that the American political gravity that was never able to bring down Donald Trump, I'm just not sure the same thing will end up being said on the global scale.
Certainly not. All right. Last closing thought. Sam Altman, our best friend, one of our most beloved subjects, is back in the news because he said that in the future he can imagine
PR masterstroke.
within a masterwork of thought, a masterpiece, really, as we call it. He says intelligence in the future, he sees it as being a utility. We see a future where intelligence is a utility like electricity or water, and people buy it from us on a meter. And then Gizmodo, where I read this story, I mean, I saw him say it too, but I looked at the story for the quote's precise language. Gizmodo says, which conjures up the nightmarish image of someone being unable to pay their intelligence bill. You're like at work and you just kind of slump over like a mannequin or marionette that's like lost its strings, like,
or like how we have to have like lunch programs for kids,
right?
Like we have to start subsidizing their intelligence so they can do their homework.
Yeah.
I mean, but like this isn't like there's a comparison here, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Like these people, whether it's Altman in his bubble or Trump in his, but like outside of it is this like very real blowback,
Yeah.
Like Altman's popularity, I feel like, same with Musk, like basically goes down in concert with how much attention
quite frankly, how much they speak.
just how often they speak.
Yeah.
Like even Musk, who we've always been like, what an idiot, right?
Yeah.
He took on a far more public profile over the last half decade. And like, certainly since 10 years ago. Yeah. And just a nosedive. And like this guy, like the thing that's so funny about watching the clip is like, again, with these people, we talk about this a lot, but like he says not only something so stupid, right? So profoundly evil, even if it is like was to be taken as something that they are trying to do. But he says it like it's incredible. Like he's bestowing this like vision. He's such a visionary. And it's like, okay, you sound like this because you're talking about something like intelligence, which, first of all, makes it stupid. What you're saying is insane.
The idea of intelligence as something quantifiable like electricity is idiotic.
Again, these people can only live as though they're in a sci-fi, right? So it's like, actually, one day we're all going to have those little planes that they had in the Jetsons. Did you know that? We're all gonna have. And this guy's saying something that is so dumb that like it, but he's saying it in this tone, right? Of like, hey, I know you guys are just out there working your jobs. You're on your phones. You guys have no idea where this is going. You know, one day, and then he goes, you're going to have to pay us for intelligence. And
which we stole from the collective works of humanity in the first place.
Yes, exactly.
And like intelligence, like what? Like facts? I'm going to I won't know who was in the Beatles unless I pay my intelligence meter. Like what are we talking about here? Can they wipe your brain? You know, last thought on this. I was thinking in class today, well, before class, but my mind was wandering as I waited for the students. And I thought about all the people, the Musk brain chip. And for the first time, it really occurred to me, oh, wait, you know what's going to happen to people with the brain chip is there's going to be a virus, like a computer virus that gets into the brain and either kills them or renders them automata. You know, it's like...
or even worse, their subscription price will go up. They'll
have to get Norton antivirus for their brain, right?
And then you'll get phone calls on your Neuralink from someone like me who will have to take a job collecting on Neuralink bills to be able to.
Your McAfee Neuralink is out of date.
Hi, am I speaking to? Is this Mr. Stu Watson's brain? Am I speaking directly to the brain now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to say, but you are 3 months past. We're going to have to go ahead and shut off all your knowledge about the Beatles. We can turn that back on for a one-time payment of $141.95.
I riot.
But you see it, like you see now, like I think, like you're definitely getting more and more of people being like, shut this off.
Yeah.
If that's the idea, like, and it's amazing. It's like you guys have billions of dollars that you burn through for no reason.
Yeah.
You create nothing.
You create shit. You create literal garbage.
Yeah. You know what you should do? You should pay an ad agency. Why don't you go try that on for a little bit? Because you need to stop saying things like this.
You need to stop going. You know, like the funny thing is, I talked to my students about this. There used to be a time when no one knew who the CEO of anything was. There were always a couple people out there. But if you asked a random person in 1994 who the CEO of General Electric was, they would have no idea, right?
Yeah. Why? And the only way they might end up finding out is if there's some huge labor problem
or scandal, some kind of thing. Or if you get every now and then you'd get a Ted Turner or, one of these people that were a little larger, they had a profile. Bill Gates, Branson, perfect example.
And
all the Epstein friends.
Those people the next one started modeling themselves.
Yeah, it's again, feedback loop, right? It's like, oh, they see the public facing aspect as the most important part of the job. When it's like, no, back in the day, the mystery had value. The invisibility, you could be the richest person in the world and invisible. Great. I mean, it's terrible that the conditions allowed for that, but from a logical standpoint, why would you want to be the richest person in the world and have everyone know who you are? It's like when you win the lottery, you don't go and collect the check.
Why would you be like, I'm thinking about just telling everyone that they're going to have to pay for intelligence like they do water. and first of all, you're also just like, I mean, that's another thing. I don't feel like we should make people pay for water, but you know. Okay.
Oh, what a fucking nightmare. All right. Well,
I guess you've got other battles to fight, right?
Yeah. Speaking of which, next week we're going to finally cover one battle after another. Now that it's been anointed, it has won the Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, several other bests. I think Sean Penn won for Best Supporting Actor. Michael, you've not seen it yet, right?
Nope.
I saw it in the theater, really enjoyed it. I'm a little worried going into a rewatch that I'm going to hate it because let's be real, I hate everything. Like we both are we're haters, but
I'm feeling I'm going to like it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I think it's about revolutionaries. It's about the white supremacist cartels that may or may not be secretly running America. It's a good film. So that'll be fun. Until then, if you like the show, you can follow us on the podcatcher of your choice. If you really like the show, you can leave us a rating and or review on that podcatcher. And you can also follow us on Instagram at The End of the World WMS, where we post exciting reels from the show and its many highlights. And so one battle after another next week. And until then, this has been The End of the World with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu, and we will talk to you real soon.